Good morning. Today is January 22nd, 2022, and this is a special edition of To My Liberal Friends. I normally don't do a podcast on Saturday and Sunday, but I thought what I wanted to talk about today was so important that I should do it. This past week, we saw the Senate vote on whether or not to end the filibuster rule in the Senate, and Democrats and liberals went overboard claiming that this rule was destroying democracy, that we are thwarting the will of the people. Well, let's take a look at the rule and what it's doing. The first thing is we're not a democracy. We're a democratic republic that respects the rights of the minority. The key difference between a democracy and a republic lie in the limits placed on the government by the law, which has implications for minority rights. Most modern nations, including the United States, are democratic republics with a constitution. Now, that constitution can be amended through a very strict procedure by the people. The U.S. Constitution placed strict limits on the powers of the government, specifically the federal government. It outlines those powers and all others are reserved to the states. But if you listen to the histrionics of Democrats, you would think that all is lost and the country is doomed. So let's say that they change the rule because they want to. One of the first things they would do without the 60-vote rule is they would admit the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico as states. This would assure them of 4 more Democratic senators in the Senate and as many as 6 more Democrats in the House. That builds their majority back to where they can keep control. Another thing they would do, you hear it spoken all of the time by progressives, let's have universal income. The government sends you a check every month. We've seen a version of this with the child tax credit being sent out every month. If you want to work, that's fine, but if you don't want to work, that's fine as well. We just want you to be happy, and most of all, keep voting for us so you can keep getting that check to stay happy. They would then say, let's abolish student debt. Why should people have to pay back the money they borrowed if it's keeping them from having the things they want? Why should they have to pay back the money just because they decided to major in some arcane field that will never lead to a job? It's what they wanted to do, and they should not be punished for pursuing what they wanted. Now tell that to the kid they laughed at in high school because he didn't go to college. He became a plumber, an electrician, a mechanic, etc. He has a good job. He earns money, and he pays taxes. And now he has to use his tax money to pay for those that laughed at him because he pursued something different from them. He actually has a productive life. We would then see universal health care. One of the things that was in the original bill by the progressives was to have Medicare expanded, a first step toward universal health care. You do that and some bureaucrat in Washington will decide what medical procedures you can have and how often you can visit the doctor. Second Amendment rights, they'd vanish in a moment. New laws would be passed prohibiting you from owning a gun. Prisons, why would we need them? Criminals are only committing crimes anywhere from smash and grab robberies to murder because of social inequity. Governor Newsom out in California described the train robberies as by gangs and then later had to correct himself because that wasn't politically woke enough to say. He said they're organized groups robbing these trains. They're criminals, they're gangs. Let's face it, but we can't say that. They would abolish the Electoral College so that urban voters would have more say than suburban and rural voters. Forget the compromise worked out by Madison to form the Union. They want a strict, I voted for that guy, so he has to be my president. The southern border, that would be completely open. If you want to come to the U.S., just walk on in and have programs in place to feed you, house you, and take care of you. We've got this for you. These are what the progressives want, and that's what Rule 22 in the Senate is a check against. It requires a supermajority to pass this kind of legislation, and it stopped them in their tracks this week. Now, if Republicans take control of the House and possibly the Senate, you can bet all of those Democrats who flipped their position from defending Rule 22 to now wanting to change it will flip right back and say it's essential we keep it for the character of the Senate. This is To My Liberal Friends, and I'm John Haddo, and I appreciate your listening.